Lost ways of knowing. That sounds arcane, and it sounds like I'm now going to do something talismanic or alchemical or something. That's not what's happening here. The taxonomy has to be principled, and so what it is every one of these kinds of knowing has a particular result, a particular standard, and a particular kind of memory. I'm not going through all of these things to be pedantic. I'm going through these to show that this is a rigorous taxonomy. You can cut up the world however you want, but in the scientific taxonomy, you want it to be very systematic. What I want to do is challenge the way post-Descartes, post-Newton and Kant, we have reduced knowing to the point where we have identified it with one kind of knowing.
So the kind of knowing that we have reduced knowing to what I call propositional knowing. And this is the kind of knowing that is our grasping of facts that we assert in propositions that we believe. Like, I know that cats are mammals. There we go. There's a fact, and I'm asserting a belief.
We have a particular kind of memory associated with it called semantic memory. You know that cats are mammals. There's no episode in your life tied to that. It's just a propositional fact. So it's stored in semantic memory. And it has with it a special sense of realness, which we often equate to truth per se, which is a sense of conviction.
And then, of course, we've developed, and I'm a scientist, so I think this is a very, very good thing, by the way. We have developed ways of dealing with how self-deception creeps into the inferential processes by which we manipulate propositions and generate good theory, good belief. That's what the scientific and historical methods are. And I have training in both, mostly in science, but in some history as well, right? And so I believe in science in that sense. I think that science is a great way of knowing propositionally. But as you alluded to earlier, the problem with that is that inferential propositional knowing is not identical with all of our ways of knowing. And what's really significant is that propositional knowing, and we know this theoretically, there's a little bit of irony there, we know this because of the ongoing science of meaning in life. We know that those kinds of beliefs do very, very little to make your life meaningful, right? Precisely because they don't empower you to deal with these perennial problems, and they don't empower you with deepening the connections to yourself, to each other, in the world. So let's go through the other kinds of knowing that actually have to do with that.
There's another kind of knowing. Not propositional, procedural. This is knowing how to do something. This is knowing how to modify your sensory motor loop so that you can change the world as you need to. This is knowing how to ride a bike, knowing how to swim, knowing how to kiss somebody you love. Your skills are what result from procedural knowing. Propositional knowing gives you beliefs. But procedural knowing gives you skills. Now, beliefs may be true or false in our standard sense, but are skills true or false? No, instead we talk about whether or not they're powerful or not, whether they're effective or not. This is a different sense of realness. And they're stored in a different kind of memory. Psychologists, prosaically enough, call it procedural memory. And it's very distinct from semantic memory. You can lose semantic memory without losing procedural memory, and vice versa. Now notice that the procedural memory is actually the space within which you manipulate your propositions. You have to know how to manipulate them, move them around, relate them. And that knowing how to transform, manipulate your propositions is not itself a set of propositions. This was a point made by both by Aristotle and Wittgenstein. You might say, oh, well, Ryle made a similar point too. You might say, oh, that's interesting. Huh. So there's a different sense of realness. There's sort of truth, and then there's power. But notice, if I'm going to use or acquire a skill, I need situational awareness. I need to be aware of my situation. What skill should I be applying here? Should I be applying my swimming skill right now? I'm a pretty good swimmer. Should I do it? No, it's not, and here's the key word. It's not relevant or appropriate. It's not adaptively fitted to the context that I'm in. I need a situational awareness in order to know which skills to apply and which skills to acquire. I need to know what it's like to be here now in this state of mind. This is called perspectival knowing. This is knowing what it's like to be here now in this state of mind. So you're experiencing a particular here nowness from a particular state of mind. And what that means is you're doing salience landscaping. Salience is how things stand out. What's happening is things are constantly shifting in how they're standing out to you, and what's foregrounded and backgrounded. And what you're doing with all of that shifting, salience landscaping and sizing up, is you're trying to get an optimal, what Merleau-Ponty called an optimal grip on some particular aspect of your environment so you can interact with it well. That's what situational awareness is. That's what perspectival knowing is. It has a different kind of memory associated with it. It's episodic memory. So compare this to, when did you learn that 2 + 2 = 4? Well, I don't know. I'm probably in grade school, but you're inferring. You're not remembering. Compare that to episodic memory. What was the most interesting thing you did last night? Oh, well, I did this and this and this. And then what do you do? What's an episode? Well, it's a chunk of memory around perspectival knowing. An episode is your particular, when you go back into the episode, oh, that was my state of mind. That was the situation, and this is what I was finding salient in it. Yeah, that's what episodic memory is. What's the sense of realness within perspectival knowing? It's not a sense of truth. It's not a sense of power. I'm working with Dan Chiappi on this, and with scientists are using the rovers on Mars and people in video games. Virtual reality, notice the word, virtual reality, gives us an ongoing experimental arena in which we can figure out what it is people are seeking when they want a sense of realness within perspectival knowing. And this is the term that people come up with again and again and again. It's a sense of presence. It's a sense that the world, I'm present in that world, and that world is present to me. I'm embedded. And this is the next thing, the embedded aspect of the 4 E's. Right? I'm embedded in it. I'm perspectively embedded. It's present to me, and I'm present to it in that optimal grip. Okay. But if I'm going to have situational awareness, you know what I need for that? I need situations. What's a situation? We use these terms all the time, but what's a situation? Well, it's the way things are situated. What does that mean? Well, I propose to you that what we're talking about when we're talking about a situation is we're talking about good coupling. Remember, I've talked about this meta-coupling. A situation is when the organism and the environment are coupled together in the right way. They're situated with respect to each other so that they can come to be co-present to each other. This takes us to the deepest level of knowing, I would argue, which I call participatory knowing. This is not knowing that, or knowing how, or knowing what it is like. This is knowing by being. This is knowing by being a particular kind of agent in a particular kind of arena. And there is only an agent and an arena if they are appropriately coupled together. How do they get coupled together? Well, they get coupled together, and you can examine this at many different levels of timescales of analysis. At the evolutionary level, there are biological processes, a process called niche construction, by which the environment is shaping organisms and organisms are shaping the environment until they mutually shape. And it's the mutual shaping that causes the coupling that makes situations come into existence. You're mutually shaped by the biology at an evolutionary timescale. But you're also being shaped by You're being shaped at a historical timescale by culture. Through the use of tools, we shape the environment, look around you, to fit you, but you also shape you. Look at my glasses, look at my clothes, to fit my environment. There's a mutual shaping between me and the environment that is brought about by culture. And of course, there's already something we've talked about. There's the online mutual shaping that's going on in the sensory motor loop. Watch them all come together. See, okay? I can grasp this because there has been a long process of niche construction so that through speciations, developed this thing, the famous opposable thumb, and all that other stuff, so that I can grasp tools. And then culture did this really interesting thing. It shaped matter and then trained me so that I can drink from a mug. You can't initially drink from a mug. Give one to a 5-month-old. Okay? Now, where is the graspability of this? Is it in the mug? No, a fly can't grasp this. A cat can't grasp this. Is it in my hand alone? No. It's in a real relationship between the arena, that's a part of the arena, and the agency, a mutual shaping. And when that mutual shaping, when that coupling occurs, you get what are called affordances. Affordances. There is an affordance of graspability in that, between that mug and me. This is a term from Gibson, central term in 4E cognitive science. An affordance is a real existing possibility for action. This floor affords walking. The walking isn't in the floor. It's not in me. It is between us. So, what's the kind of memory that goes with that agent-arena relationship? All the roles and all the identities. This is the weird kind of memory you call yourself. That's what yourself is. Yourself is this set, and we're going to talk a lot more about this, the set of roles and identities that you've stored. And how do you know that yourself is real? By participating in yourself, by being yourself. What's it like when participatory knowing isn't working? Well, what you'll find is the affordance landscape dries up. Well, when does that happen? Culture shock. Go to another culture. It's shocking. Homesickness. I'm in this wonderful hotel room in Austin, Texas. I'm stranded there by Air Canada, and I don't want to be there. I want to be home. I can't be myself. And home is a place where the agent-arena relationship is really working. That's why if we experience being homeless within the cosmos, that tells us something very important about how that agent-arena relationship is breaking down for us. And when the agent-arena relationship breaks down, the participatory knowing breaks down. The ability to make connections and act appropriately breaks down. And then the perspectival knowing breaks down. Then the procedural knowing breaks down, and then the propositional knowing breaks down.
The participatory knowing makes all the niches, makes all the affordances. And then the perspectival knowing turns those affordances into a situation of which you are aware. That situational awareness trains and affords you applying skills in your procedural knowing, so you are empowered. And then finally, in your empowerment, you can utter particular propositions and undertake to justify and defend them in your propositional knowing. But if you think that all of that what you are and all that you know is your propositional knowing, and that all I have to do to transform you is change your belief, which is the fundamental lie of ideology, right? Then you are not only being lied to, you are being cut off from all of this machinery. And think about how that procedural empowerment that perspectival presence and that participatory belonging. Think about how belonging, presence, and power are so central to your sense of meaningful existence.
And notice how difficult it is to capture the non-propositional in propositions. What do you mean? I do this sometimes with my students. Give me instructions on how to tie my shoelace, and I'll follow the instructions exactly. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's really hard. Give me the complete and exhaustive set of instructions for riding a bicycle so I won't fall off. Oh, yeah, right. Give me in propositions a particular, that captures perfectly your particular perspectival knowing. What was it like when you first made love? Translate it completely into propositions for me. Yeah. And then more penetratingly, translate who you are yourself into an exhaustive set of propositions. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. The non-propositional is central to transframing and to the foundations and the dynamic connections of meaning making. If you are not accessing and educating the non-propositional, your chances for virtue and wisdom drop significantly.